The phrase ESG has been doing the rounds in boardrooms, corporate governance reports, webinars, press and blogs for some time now. The term was popularised first in a 2004 report titled Who Cares Wins, which was a joint initiative of financial institutions at the invitation of the UN. But what exactly is ESG? ESG stands for Environmental, Social and Corporate Governance, and at its simplest is an approach to evaluating the extent to which an organisation works on behalf of the social goals that go beyond the role of just maximising profits. There is no one exhaustive list of ESG examples, and the factors are often interlinked. But in essence, the environment goals focus on the conservation of the natural world and minimising the impact of the company in nature. This includes controls of carbon emissions, nature loss, and the overconsumption of non-renewable resources. The S, social goals, give consideration of people, relationships, and fairness in society. This includes a company's workforce, but also its supply chain and distribution channels. This addresses gender equality, diversity and inclusion, human rights, and community relations. But it also includes product safety, respect for privacy, and data security. Finally, the G. Governance looks at the standards for running a company, its decision-making, reporting, ethical behaviours. This includes focus on the quality and scope of reporting, the accountabilities, the independent oversight, executive compensation, and more. ESG, or certainly its underlying principles, have existed for a long time. If you think back to the 1960s, in the formation of ethical banks or social responsible investing, where investors excluded stocks or entire industries from their portfolios based on the business activities such as tobacco production. Since the 1960s, this has been followed by numerous initiatives over the years, but it's really in the last few that it's exploded, and its awareness has really accelerated. Well, 1. The world is changing. Global challenges such as climate risk, increased regulatory pressures, social and demographic shifts, and privacy and data security concerns represent new or increasing risks for organisations and investors. Nothing has highlighted this more than the tragic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, exposing new ESG risks and the significant economic pressures it created, alongside showcasing an organisation's ability to manage. Insurers and their reputations were particularly in the spotlight here. 2. A new generation. The new generation, millennials and Gen Z, have grown up discussing environmental issues, which wasn't always the case for our parents. This shift gives rise to new expectations in terms of what organisations offer, invest in, and provide solutions for. 3. Better data and technology for more meaningful insights. Advanced technology, AI, machine learning, and alternative data extraction techniques helps minimise our reliance on voluntary disclosure from companies and delivers relevant and timely ESG insights and financial impacts. These 3 factors have seen a huge acceleration and awareness in ESG matters. Where it was once niche, it's now something we can no longer ignore. This is compounded by companies are no longer being answerable just to shareholders, but also to a whole new set of stakeholders. The customers, employees, suppliers, communities, the press and regulators. These broader and more vocal groups are increasingly interested in how ESG drives corporate performance. Let's consider some examples from the insurance perspective about how they might implement ESG into their organisations. Let's start with the environment. Insurers could look to reduce and offset carbon emissions and waste landfill from offices. Firms like Aviva have committed to being carbon neutral by 2040, 10 years earlier than most of the banks. Others have committed to plant trees for every new client who purchase insurance or for those who switch to paperless statements. We could ask underwriting to support renewable energy assets like solar and wind or specialised D&O cover for companies reducing emissions. The flip side is we could even stop insuring environmentally destructive industries or help them transition to green energy. So what about social? For example, insurers can include ESG information as a rating factor, like workforce health and safety scores. Recent research by Allianz has found that ESG information can be of relevance in addressing a company's risk management performance. The research found that higher-rated ESG firms were less likely to suffer incidents such as workplace-related accidents, reputational damage, or fines. Companies like Lemonade, the insurtech, have built charitable donations into their products and services, striking a chord with many millennial renters who appreciate the insurance with a conscience approach. You could provide health and well-being programs for employees. U-lifers from the insurer U-Life are financially rewarded with Ucoin for making healthier choices in their everyday life, whether it's walking, running, meditation, or fitness classes, which can then be used on a number of benefits. Insurers could provide preferential rates for non-for-profit enterprises. They need to ensure diversity and inclusion across the workforce, including social mobility, pay, and equality. Let's look at governance. Transparency in providing timely and accurate reporting to stakeholders, or the accountability for performance and risk management, and ensuring remunerations are tied to performance and ESG outcomes. Independence, ensuring that appropriate independent oversight, including board composition, diversity, remuneration, and concentration of voting rights, are covered and discussed. Well, cynics may argue that much of this is simply PR-motivated greenwashing. However, steps are now being taken by major insurers which will have very real-world impacts that go beyond just good optics. ESG risks and exposures, particularly with regards to climate change and the consequent impact of natural catastrophes, is of interest to many, many insurers. But insurers need to be prepared to ingest, process, and analyse these new ESG data sources and work them into their risk and business models. More needs to be done. And there are still challenges, stemming from the absence of the universal way to assign ESG ratings, but nevertheless, ESG should not be seen as just an inconvenient corporate necessity, but an area of opportunity for the insurance industry. An ethically centred approach to customers, employees, and the world at large is increasingly seen as an indicator that a company is in good long-term health and a good investment.